Good morning, everyone. It is 10 a.m. and we are going to call this workshop of the Del Mar College Board of Regents to order. It is Tuesday, March the 4th. We're going to establish our quorum. Regent Cruel. Here. Regent Averett. Here. Dr. Babley. Here. Regent Loeb.
Here.
Regent Garza. Here. I'm Carol Scott. We have a quorum and can conduct business. We've got a couple of regents who could not be here this morning, but we expect them for our afternoon session, so we will go ahead and get started. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Regent Garza, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please join us as we read our Del Mar College vision statement. Del Mar College empowers our communities to achieve their dreams. Del Mar College is streaming. Actually, we don't stream our workshops, but we will stream. Hello, Dr. Adami has joined us. This will be available on the college's website after the fact. We do have an opportunity today for any public comment prior to getting started with our workshop. Is there anyone here for general public comment? Seeing none, we will move directly to our discussion. I've got trying to decide what is the difference between the two items here. Mr. Attorney, we have two items, but they're written the same. Oh, discussion and feedback, and then discussion and possible action. Okay. So we are only going to be talking about the tuition and fee waiver program. We're going to have a presentation first and then have an opportunity to act on that before we close the workshop this morning. So I'm going to ask Dr. Escamilla to open us up while Ms. Keas and Mr. Garcia prepare for the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Regents, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning at the March regular meeting workshop to talk about an initiative by way of a tuition pilot program that is quite possibly one of the most, well, it's truly a historic policy shift for this Board of Regents and this college. There's a lot of thunder to be stolen in the presentation, and so I'm going to be brief this morning with my remarks about it. Besides saying that it is a historic opportunity to really change the trajectory of this community's overall educational attainment. What I will add before I hand the microphone over is thanks. Thanks to the entire team for the hours and hours and hours, the human hours that have gone into this. Many people have gone through in a very rapid format to put together the data and information that you're about to that's about to be presented to you all. I especially want to thank Mr. Raul Garcia, who back in August, when I came to him and knocked on his door and said, "Hey Raul, I've got an idea." He was the guy who jumped in there and took this thing financially with his team, Jackie and others in the business office, and did some analysis that really kicked us off with a fundamental and provided the fundamental analysis that is undergirding this entire program. And then again, to the rest of the team, Lenora Keas took it from there, grabbed that baton and took it with the team. And I'm telling you, this has taken has gone to the highest priority by way of the executive team. And so thanks to everyone who's contributed thoughts, lots and lots of conversations, not always in agreement, shall I say. But we worked through it because we're a team and we put the students first. That being said, Madam Chair, I hand the microphone back over to you and to the team to present.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Keas and Mr. Garcia. So we'll let you begin your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. President, members of the Board of Trustees. I'm going to pretty much echo what our President just talked about. The vision for today's proposed tuition and fee waiver pilot program was planted by our Dr. Escamilla back in August. This prompted a discussion with the leadership at the Alamo College and Austin Community College to learn more about their programs. I quickly learned that it was not just about the numbers. It was also about reducing student financial barriers, accelerating the student time to completion, elevating the wraparound student support services to drive up student success, and accelerating our response time to our region's labor market needs by quickly delivering a trained workforce. Over the course of several months, the college has been in multiple tracks cultivating today's pilot program design. This included our president working with Mr. Busby and the DMC Foundation to secure alternative source of funding. Ms. Keas rallying the college around this initiative. And then there was Dr. Halcom, Dr. Benavides, Mr. Coladus working to bolster our student support services for this cohort. Then there's Jeff Olson building the communication and marketing plan. Me with the help of my team crunching the numbers, and Stefan Maddox harvesting the student data for me several times over. We believe that our proposed pilot program will drive change in student enrollment behaviors and scale up the trajectory of the college's performance. It is designed to meet the needs of our students while leveraging the general plan concepts used in the Austin Community College Affordable Pilot Plan and the Alamo College Promise program. We are also seeking the board's feedback, which will help further shape our pilot program design. Ms. Keas will next describe our pilot program.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. The basic structure of the pilot plan is covered in this next discussion. It's a very comprehensive plan, and you're going to see all the different elements that are outlined here. The financial parameters are provided by Mr. Garcia, and we're looking first at a one-year cohort or a one-time cohort that would cover 3 years. In addition to this, you have reference documents at the back of the presentation for your consideration. And in those reference documents, we have 2 different glossaries, one that's more short or quick time, and then one that's very comprehensive, so that as we talk about the terminology and you choose to study it at leisure, then you have that to refer to. In addition, though, at the end, Mr. Garcia has prepared financial projections that would cover additional cohorts over a period of time, and with increasing student enrollment up to 25%. And so that's not really part of our presentation today. However, they're there for your reference, and we can discuss it if you choose. As we begin to look at this new pilot plan, we're looking at how do we provide tuition and fees for students as they come in over a 3-year period. This is a one-time cohort that would be launched in fall of 2025. The idea is that we would bring this group of students in and provide additional services for them that guides them along the way. This would begin to support them with funding that comes from our donors through the foundation, along with the funding that is generated through the various steps along the way, or the pathways that is created by House Bill 8. And as you see, we'll go through all those different options as how that funding combines as a student works their way through the different pathways and combines different credentials. The students who would make up this cohort are coming from, ideally, the graduating class of this May of 2025. As we look at those students, they would be living in the taxing district. They may be adult learners, they could be first-time in college students, but they would be students who would only have 12 credit hours or less. And so that gives us a defined group of students to make up this cohort. In addition, they would be agreeing to sign an agreement, or you could call it a contract. However, it's really an agreement that they will commit to come full-time as they progress through. They would be a 4-credit student, and they must maintain that 2.0 GPA. So it's important that we define this cohort because within this cohort, it provides what we call the guardrails, that we can have a defined group of students. It's also nice to notice that right now, as of fall of 24, over 80% of our students were part-time. And that is very significant as we choose to support this group and help make them full-time students. As we prepared this presentation today, we looked at 3 different avenues to show you, or to illustrate really, how these varying degrees are funded by House Bill 8. Through the credential funding that comes along with House Bill 8, it combines over a period of time as students progress through their goals. And so the next 3 slides are going to illustrate 3 different degrees and how a student can combine and receive that funding. This first one is looking at an associate in applied science and welding. And I'd like to point out, it's only our associate in applied sciences that have the option of providing certificates and generally licensures. And so those 2 areas provide additional funding opportunities with House Bill 8 as compared to our associates in arts and our associates in science, which 2 of those are fixing to show. But if you see a student has many options along this educational pathway, it could be where they would receive $1,000 if they receive a licensure, or $1,000 for what we call an OSA, which is a small term award. But as they combine these options and they receive their certificates, each one along the way, the college would be receiving funding for those awards. So as you see, they could go all the way from $1,000 as you receive their 2-year degree to $3,500. And if they choose to go on to our new bachelor's degree, there's an additional $4,500. These are not unique amounts. They generally combine along the way. The next option yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Carl, Carl, be sure and use your microphone, Carl.
That's good. Mr. Carl, we would receive as an institution within our reporting system, each time a student completes each one of these goals, then with the following year, fundamentally, we would be receiving those monies. Okay, in the Associates in Arts and Histories degrees, you see where a student comes in, and what's nice is that when they complete their first 15 credit hours of college work, we receive $3,500. And as they progress to receive their degree and then possibly transfer, you receive the additional $3,500. So along the way, and I'd like to point out, these are not in-demand areas. And you'll see later as high-demand areas pay even more.
To
Yes,
also
sir.
include reverse transfers.
Yes, and reverse transfers back and forth to the area universities. Thank you. And this is showing an Associates in Science, which is one of our other types of degrees. Pretty much funds the same way as an Associates in Arts and History. But the main point is that along the way, a student's journey along the way, each of these funding opportunities are there. And as they complete each of these milestones, if you want to think of it that way, the college receives reimbursement or funding. One of the key questions we were asked about at the last workshop or board meeting where we discussed the tuition waiver program, we wanted to make sure that we tried to address all the questions in the areas that were asked. And one was about our marketing plan and communication plan. Since then, our communications and marketing department has been hard at work, and you'll see where they have developed a very complete and comprehensive plan as to how this would all be rolled out. And if you so choose to approve it, they're ready to go with the marketing plan and how it would reach the different market segments. In addition, we have a new advising and support program. It's all arranged, and Dr. Halcomb is going to share her information on these 2 areas. Dr. Halcomb.
Thank you. Our interaction with our students and the services we provide are critical to students completing these various pathways, thus being successful. And we have a myriad of services. We have student retention, which would include personal, social, career, and academic advising, degree planning, other support services as well. This includes engagement and leadership opportunities such as tutoring, access and advocacy services, Valdar's Market, career development services, mental health counseling, veteran services, community resource referrals, and much more. And you can see a QR code up here which does take you to many of our services, the website for those referral services. We do intend to identify or place a code for these students in the pilot program so that we can monitor their success, their enrollment status, the academic journey, follow their degree plans, etc. And then we also have career services assistance. So before graduation, we do provide students with more advising regarding resume writing, development, interview practice, assistance with job hunting as well. And so we'll be using Colleague and Civitas to provide more intrusive advising, meaning that we will have information on each student to see where we can help them the best. So we do have 4 academic divisions, 16 academic departments. We align our programs into 8 pathways, or some people call them meta majors. For example, we have a STEM pathway, science, technology, engineering, mathematics is one pathway. We have another one, which would be health science, where we have the nursing. So we have 8 particular pathways. They're aligned so that we can advise them and get them properly mapped on their journey and follow them through. We have approximately 280 full-time faculty who do advising. And we have 11 embedded advisors. The embedded advisors are those that have content expert and other expertise with advising that are within departments and aligned with our 8 pathways. These individuals help the faculty in their advising, but are full-time so that they can meet the students where they take their courses. So being in the department, that's where the students are taking the courses, and they can be readily available. We have a great enrollment center as well with 5 enrollment specialists that are full-time that help our students along their journey and take walk-ins as well. We are trying to enhance advising right now by being more consistent with our scheduling of appointments, and we're in the process of doing that at this very moment. We are also following and being consistent with meetings with students. We're following our QEP as well in providing checkpoints along the student's journey. We're also working on and we already have many students that are involved in caseload, or faculty involved in caseload advising, where we have a faculty assigned to a particular student and then following through on the checkpoints throughout their journey here. And we are trying to empower our faculty even further with more training that they are going to do that will be very worthwhile for them as we open up registration April 7th. Then we will once again use the analytics software that I mentioned, Colleague and Civitas, to help the advisors in working with our students in this pilot so that they will be successful. I will now turn this back to Ms. Keas.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Halcomb.
Any questions so far, Regents?
Very good. One of the things that's key to this program, particularly in the first 2 years, is that our Del Mar College Foundation has fully come behind it. Previously, $1 million was raised for a Viking Promise program, and these dollars will be dedicated to this program if it chooses to move forward. And so it would be paying out $500,000 per year and aligns with the mission and support that they've looked at. The foundation is also considering additional support, and they see this as aligning with their overall mission that they want, that they work for. And what's key is that they recognize that their scholarships are still very much in demand. As you'll see as the numbers progress, the scholarships will enhance the students' success and also serve the needs of the other students who do not meet or choose to be part of this program.
I'd like to recognize Ms. Sandra Alvarez, who's here as the president of the board, Del Mar College Board of Foundation Board of Trustees. Thank you, Ms. Alvarez, for being here and your commitment and support to our foundation. Thank you.
When we look at the timeline for the first cohort, I think it's important that we recognize the alignment of the scholarship opportunity along with financial aid and Pell. If you choose to approve this today, I wanted to point out that on February 1st, the scholarship application opened up. Students began to apply for scholarships. If we choose to go ahead with this program, we would propose opening it up April 1st. And that gives students the entire month of April. April 1 through April 30th is when the Del Mar College Foundation would close the scholarship application process. However, entirely along the entire way, students can continue to apply for financial aid, and financial aid and Pell continue on. Financial aid generally closes August 1st, however, Pell continues on. And so we're showing a timeline here that really aligns a student with the opportunity to gain all sources of funding. Again, this is first-in funding, meaning that the students would receive this waiver up front, that it would pay for their tuition and general fees in the beginning, and then any other dollars that they receive or that are awarded them could go towards their books and their life necessities, and therefore hoping to align them to be more successful and to complete as planned.
I have a question about this application process. Is it an application just to determine eligibility, or are you foreseeing a competitive application process?
We're foreseeing that students, well, it would be for eligibility more so. Any student that applies that is willing to sign the agreement, go full-time, meet all the requirements, and accept this enhanced advising and support, then they're in the program.
I would think that getting the application in and expressing interest during that window makes a lot of sense. Maybe for high school graduates, it might be a little bit tougher. So just that is a little bit concerning to me with it being a new program, and are we really going to get the attention out and those kinds of things. But signing the commitment prior to April 30th might be tough. So it might be that we have to have your application and your expression of interest, but we're not requiring them to sign the commitment until maybe a later deadline. Something that gives them some time, and if a student is under the age of 18, can they legally sign that commitment? So I'm just saying that there might be a little bit of give and take you want to consider in that process, and the application, and make it clear that it's not a competitive application, it's just to determine eligibility.
It's eligibility, and I'm sorry, I'll clarify. The program would stay open to August 1st.
Okay.
For application to our program.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, the scholarship piece is what would close April 30th.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's their deadline.
And wiggle room after the first with exceptions and so forth. We are going to keep an open mind and have that flexibility built in as needed. So we're asking for some situational support there.
Okay.
So thank you, Madam Scott, for
Madam
those
Chair.
valued points. Just wanted to make a comment is that there's going to be some lessons learned throughout this process, and everybody's going to bring in all these great ideas, and we're just going to build off of those great ideas. So, but this is all new to us, and so we're learning as we're going, and we're doing our best.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
apologize
Great
for misreading
idea.
that.
No.
Dr. Bob.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, Dr. Bob.
Two questions, just on eligibility part.
Yes.
Is there flexibility if a student meets all criteria except doesn't have 2.0 GPA? And in the mid-career or the mid-program, if they change the program, would those have any bearing on eligibility?
Yeah, excellent questions. Ideally, they must maintain a 2.0 to continue in the program. If they drop slightly below it, then there will always be room for exceptions, and we would consider them one-on-one as an individual basis. And then what we're trying to get students to not change majors so that they do complete, what we would allow is for them to change majors one time.
That's the purpose of the intrusive advising and so forth.
Yes.
That's mandatory as part of the commitment to the program.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure I understand. So as long as they meet the eligibility, there's no limit to how many students we can have in this first cohort?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Good.
Thank you. And here's how we'll determine success. In that we do have an assessment plan established. Coming in, we would look at the fall 2025 early cohort, those students and the makeup of those students, look at the programs that they're in and how they're made up. So once we know who they are and their characteristics, then we will begin to track them. And as we track completion every semester, all these data points will be gathered and collected. As we know going into this, it was just some relative data I was pulling, just received actually coming in here today. When we look at the fall semester of 24, we know that over 80% were part-time. So just that number in itself. We also know how many come from part-time from dual credit. It's a greater number. When you look at the dual credit students, 84% of our students are part-time. So the students that we can transition to full-time through this enhanced advising and support structure and financial support, if we can get them through on time and get them to graduate quicker and stay within their goals, we will all benefit, and the students greatly. So this is where we will have an intense assessment plan, and we would come back to you in the spring semester and be able to show you progress. This is a reference where we're now looking at 18 criteria, where we used to say the 17 criteria coming out of House Bill 8. They've actually added a credential of value premium for the bachelor's degree. And so we're showing these criteria. And I wanted to point out again, as you look at this funding, the funding that comes out of the state by credential, it's along the pathway, and as students progress through, they have the opportunity to earn different elements, and then as a college, we will receive combined funding depending on how they accomplish their goals. And so as you see, there's a multiple of areas, and as you get into the financial plan that Mr. Garcia's produced, you'll see how these are triggering different funding revenues coming back to the college. Any questions about these?
Yeah, what is GIA?
I love that you asked that because I had to look it up myself. It's General Academic Institution.
Meaning a university.
Yeah, university, it's when they transfer or co-enroll.
Okay.
That is one of the pieces we're trying to change in this year's legislative cycle because it refers to public institutions, and one of the things we're trying to change is to include private institutions in that. So, but today's criteria is public general academic institutions.
Yes.
David, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you had your light on.
No,
Sorry.
I just turned it on. I wanted to add that something important is these are the baseline numbers before we get multipliers. And we get, if they qualify for Pell, we get 25% more.
There you go.
If they're over 25, we get 50% more. And if they need remedial, we get 25% more. So like the certificate to BAS one, that's, if they meet all three, that's $27,000 when they get their bachelor's.
Yes, sir. It's significant money.
And so, I mean, it is very much in our interest to recruit our traditional student profile versus, you know, people who don't meet any of those three, because, I mean, anybody helps, but the tuition that we're giving up versus the possible reward for somebody who meets those qualifications is several times what we're giving up in terms of tuition.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And this is the slide that just reiterates what you just said, and that it shows how even though you have this standard amount that is allocated, then there's a multiplier effect depending on the individual student and whether or not they're economically disadvantaged, an adult learner, or academically disadvantaged, and how they're defined. So the opportunity for that funding to continue and to actually multiply is there. I put these next two slides in just as a little reference piece because we've already gone over them. However, what's significant is that as we redefine that cohort, I want to point out because the cohort that Mr. Garcia used for the financial projections is slightly different. It was important that we look at actual students, and so he looked at the actual student makeup of 23, 24 in calculating and predicting the financial piece. And so when we look at who's going to be in the cohort in fall of 25, because of this solicitation that we'll do, because of the agreement that they must sign, and how we've defined the cohort, there'll be a different group of students, predominantly, or they could be. And so I just wanted to reflect on this again. And now then, we're going to talk about the financial parameters plan. And this was the group that he looked at when he did the financial workup. Yes, sir, Mr. Kroll.
This agreement or contract, does it have any, I don't want to use the word, but punitive recourse if they drop out?
The only punitive recourse is that they're out of the program and that they would then lose their future funding.
And they don't, can they come back in?
It depends. What we're trying to be as open as possible. We recognize that because of our student needs, if you have a student that by exception, say, has a family disaster, I mean, there's things that happen that we would want to take that into consideration.
But if they just say, I'm giving up.
Then they're generally out. But we would want to be as lenient as possible and work with students that come to us that have, life experience that has created a hardship. We would work with them and let them back in.
We're expecting a lot of second and third, fourth chances, just like we do every day already. It's just that the difference with the full-time experience brings a different mindset with the students and a whole different disposition.
And we also feel like this what we call intrusive advising and support piece would really give us a heads up. With some of the analytics, it's actually predictive, and when students are having a hard time because they're tracking grades, they're actually they can look at student progress during the semester, and hopefully it's help a student before they get themselves in trouble, so to speak.
I appreciate the compassion that all of our students need that deal with a lot on their plate. But I think for the pilot program to work, we need to try to stick with the financial parameters and the contract parameters as much as possible. We're attempting in this to determine whether or not these kinds of incentives can indeed change behavior and get students through to completion faster. And so too many waivers would then dilute that purpose and dilute that purpose for the program. So we might want to spend a little bit of time clarifying when and how waivers might be applied and not go in saying, oh, we're going to waive this and we're going to waive that, because then you don't get the true benefit of the pilot program. So there's got to be some fidelity to the parameters of the program, or we're not going to get the data we need and really understand how it impacts folks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Is there another question? I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Mr. Garza.
Yeah, I've got one. I don't know if I should ask it now or wait till we're completely finished, but I kind of already understood the financial plan, how that's going to work. So I'm trying to, the only concern I have, and I'm all for the program, I appreciate the DMC Foundation stepping up and offering to help financially to mitigate the risk. I'm a little concerned about when we get people to apply, that we figure out how many are going in some of the programs that we're already at capacity on, nursing, dental programs, X-ray side of things, radiology, is because I'd hate to see us favor one group over another. We want to see the cohort succeed and have good numbers, and for all the financial reasons, do well. But I want to make sure that we're not going to be pushing or putting delay on those students that are already into the program for 4 or 5 years that are trying to finish but can't get into a class because we're trying to make sure that we have success in this new program. So if you guys could just kind of explain how we're going to work around those issues, capacity issues.
Thank you that's a good point, and particularly some of our programs are at capacity, and that's kind of a good news. What we're going to do is through advising and registration, they'll be able to manage that. For one example, when you take a lot of our programs, particularly in the arts and sciences areas, there is a lot of capacity, and those are the areas that particularly students transfer on out into your universities. So we'll be managing that. One of our assessment pieces is to track the number of programs, and we'll be able to show you at the end of the fall semester the programs where the students are enrolled in this cohort. And so that's something we'll be able to monitor, and if we need to tweak, make changes going forward, we can.
The other thing, Regent Garcia, is that we're thinking about the students that aren't going to be eligible for this. It's going to be the majority of our students who are enrolled, and we've thought about that. We know we have a secondary plan and even a tertiary plan to reach out to them, because this is going to attract a lot of attention probably from existing students. I've already begun talking to student government leaders and the like, and we talked about what their alternatives are. And their alternatives are still very substantial with the programs of support that we currently have, such as federal financial aid and Pell, namely. Many of them, as you all know, do not participate in that opportunity. That is just an absolute. So we're hoping that this will be an opportunity to bring forth a lot of students who are really leaving, frankly speaking, money on the table that they would not have to in turn pay back. So we're thinking very much about them. In fact, we have a task team, a task group being put together to be ready to deal with that, in addition to support our financial aid office. There's going to be lots and lots of attention for this, we suspect, and we're getting ready for that on all fronts for all different facets of students.
Thank you. Any more questions at this time? Okay. Just wanted to point out that the financial plan parameters of the cohort of students that Mr. Garcia looked at, it's a little different. They were living in the taxing district, and they were combined of full-time and part-time students. So there's a conversion rate in there that he looked at in moving forward. And now then, Mr. Garcia will go through his cohort.
Thank you, Ms. Keas. So I want to circle back to some performance indicators that my colleague, Ms. Keas, described earlier, before going over our student enrollment estimates. So number one, part-time students' rates have scaled up in recent years to a new high of 84%, and this is mainly driven in part to tight labor market conditions. Second, on the average, students complete an associate's degree in 5 years. That's today's normal. Third, the state will issue the college a payment following the academic year or when a credential is completed. So when a student completes an associate's degree in 5 years, the state will issue a check to Del Mar College in year 6. So it takes 6 years almost to collect our dollars after the start of a student. Okay. So the 3-year tuition and fee waiver incentive paired with the full-time status requirement will propel students to complete an associate's degree in 2 to 3 years, rather than today's time to completion of 5 years. We also believe that many of today's part-time students will enroll as a full-time student to qualify for the pilot program, resulting in a downward trend in today's part-time rate of 84%. In addition, our pilot program will accelerate the delivery of a trained workforce with an associate's degree into our region's labor market in 2 to 3 years instead of today's norm of 5 years. Lastly, the length of time to collect state performance funding for an associate's degree is reduced to 3 to 4 years instead of today's normal of 6 years. Pivoting to the student enrollment table. Our estimate for qualifying full-time students who are on track for an associate's degree is 416, of which our conservative estimate for student completers conservative estimate is 299. This includes students completing in year 2 of 218 students and 81 students in year 3. This would yield the college a completion rate of 72%, again, based on conservative numbers. Next is our estimate for students enrolled in certificate programs. The college delivers associate's degree in applied science with embedded certificate programs. This is an added value benefit to our student, meaning if there's a need to opt out before completing the associate's degree, these certificate programs can be used to enter into the labor market at a higher salary than a person with the same level of experience and a high school degree. And then they can always come back and partner with us in their educational degree plan. A benefit to the college in terms of maximizing state performance dollars is that the embedded certificates in our applied science associate's degree programs allows the college to take multiple bites at the apple, essentially billing each time a degree is earned. Our enrollment estimates for certificate programs is 170, of which 160 will complete the program during the 3-year pilot program period. This includes our estimate of completers of 102 students in year 1, 48 students in year 2, and then 10 students in year 3. Next is the financial plan.
Mr. Garcia, before you move on, I'd like to talk a little bit about this and about the nature of our students that will be participating in this. I have a few points that I think are very important that I don't believe, in fact, I know are not necessarily mentioned in the presentation. One, it's the part-time to full-time status. To make that commitment, for our students to make that commitment is not an easy task, especially if you're talking about your traditional students who've been living the lifestyle of a part-time student. Changing that and moving their lives over is going to be easier said than done. And so we're going to be working with them to transition and prepare that. So yeah, it'll be a lot easier for those matriculating dual credit students who will be participating because they're young, they're coming right out of school, and all the other obvious things. One other thing really quickly, two more things, but very quickly, defining completion. Our numbers are really based on what the ideal goal of graduation. That's what we want, ultimately. That is a completion, the capstone completion, if you will, especially at the associate degrees and even at the bachelor's degree. But along the way, the milestones and certifications along the way are also completions. That's where your numbers are going to show along the way. And what we've learned is the students who are completing, especially in the CTE areas, the career and technical educational aspects of the curriculum, they're earning these credentials, these shorter term credentials, and doing really well with them if they so choose to step out and or go to work along the way. So I want to explain that spectrum of completions and the importance of that. It's something we've been innovators in, and we'll talk about awards we've been winning and those kinds of things a little bit later today. Finally, again, well, this other, I'll hold this last one. I'm just going to talk about the nature of the students and their enrollment, so I'll back off on that. I think I will be stealing some thunder that I don't intend to, but those are just 2 points that I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Escamilla.
Okay, so our pilot program is financially sustainable with a balanced budget for each of the 4 years of the plan. The program will be funded with state performance dollars earned, and I emphasize earned, by this cohort, and contributions made by the foundation. Our estimated total in state funding when combining the 4 performance categories listed on this table is $3.2 million. Please note, the college intends to use the $1 million from the foundation to kickstart the pilot programs in year 1 and in year 2. Our total estimated grand total of funding valued at $4.2 million will be used to offset the cost of waiving the basic tuition and fees valued at $2.4 million. This will net the college, our estimated net, is $1.8 million, which could be used towards the next cohort or to fund our M&O budget. I will now turn it over to Ms. Keas for final comments.
Any questions or feedback at this point?
Board members, questions? Mr. Loeb?
So the foundation money is deployed until we get rolling. So if we make this a multi-year, the idea is that then we would be using the completion money from the previous year to fund the next year.
Yes, sir, it's self-sustaining. Excuse me, it's self-sustaining.
And
It would multiply over.
And Lenora, if I may, and there are discussions with our board for trustees of the foundation for possible future consideration. Those are wide open. These are 2 years to give us a head start. And in the meetings that Mr. Busby and Ms. Alvarez and I have been in, the discussions have already begun to look beyond that. But right now, it was trying to get through today first with the idea of a possibility of assessing it, especially in the first year, as we are all going to do with this board, and to determine possibilities of moving into the future together as well.
And so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression of it, the foundation has typically in the past funded full-time students, right?
They fund scholarships, and usually they're $1,000 to $2,000 a semester.
Okay.
Full and part-time.
And so to the extent that we are taking those students into the tuition program, that will free up resources for them to be able to, for instance, if there's part-time students who are in their third year who say, well, I want to go full-time now too, but they don't really qualify for this program, there's some flex in here for them to be able to help those folks.
Yes, sir. They will continue to fund and do their scholarship funding as they have in the past.
Okay, great.
That's the intention.
I just want to say, Matt and Sandra, thank you so much on behalf of the rest of us. Please thank the donors on our behalf. We really appreciate the partnership and the support. I know being able to say to the community that there is donor support for this has been very helpful in terms of people understanding it and thinking that it's a good thing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes, thank you to everybody who had a hand in this. I'm really excited about this and appreciate everybody's efforts. Have a quick question about the modeling for the tuition and fee waiver costs. Did we assume that tuition would remain flat over those 3 years in the modeling?
Wonderful question. I did take into consideration the latest legislative change proposed by our governor, but I also, anything after that period, I did include the $1 board policy into the forecast.
Great.
After consideration.
Right, great, thank you.
Mr. Kroll?
Yeah, I have a question about the 26-27 numbers. We've got total funding source of $714,000 and change, but the tuition waiver costs are greater than that, except you're showing a net surplus.
It's a carryover.
Yes, there is a mistake on my part. I do apologize for that. Thank you. Yes, I really looked at it several times.
In year
Yeah.
two, we're in a negative situation.
Well, we're going to leverage the funding from the dual credit transfers. Right now, that is a significant large of funding for us. And so this modeling, the way we designed it, we're only using a portion of those annual funding dollars to the tune of $900,000. In this particular case, with the air, we would just have to add a little bit more dollars or leverage those dollars a little bit more.
So the funding you're getting from the dual credit is not reflected in this chart.
It is reflected in 2026 to the tune of $930,000. It is not reflected yet in 2027, which, if I understand my error, is about
Anyway, okay. All right.
100, yeah.
I don't need the exact number.
I'm sorry. No, good catch. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So to drill a little bit deeper on that, are you saying that you're going to dedicate the dual credit transfer performance funding for 1 year, possibly a portion of a second year. And that is not funding generated by this program. That is a dedication of funding elsewhere that we're going to.
It is also HB
Offset.
$8. It's also HB $8 coming through the FAST program.
It is HB $8, but we're not dedicating it throughout the life of the program. We're only dedicating it for 1 year.
For 1 year and for this particular cohort, well, 2 years now for this
2 years.
particular cohort. And yes, a portion of those dollars, and they don't have the numbers in front of me, but these are the dollars earned by this cohort who are now transferring into our college. So I'm leveraging a good portion of those dollars for this.
Wouldn't a more accurate representation be to show the dual credit transfer earnings for this cohort throughout? So that's only a one-time transfer then?
That would be a one-time transfer for years 1 and 2, yes.
Okay. But we're transferring more than this cohort is earning or only what this cohort is earning?
So let's backtrack to the financials, yes. So essentially, what you see in this presentation is the way the state has structured their funding plan. It's really at the back end.
Right.
It's always a challenge for us, for this, it's going to be a challenge for this program to find the front end dollars. But we regain it. If you look at the total grant dollars, I'm at $1.8 million at the end of the day. So that's why in my statement I said we can either use the $1.7 million towards a new cohort, or we can pay ourselves back the $930,000 of the dual credit transfer.
Okay, let's correct the financial plan.
Yeah.
And send that back out to the board when you get that done so that we can understand. But my question is still, is the dual credit of
$930,000.
930, is that what this cohort, quote unquote, would be earning? Or is this, these are additional dual credit outcome-based funds that are being applied to this program?
It would be both.
So
If you're applying the dual credit transfers in the second year, that's money that's
from another cohort.
being generated by a different
Another
cohort of students.
It'll be, yeah, I mean, I would say in total, when we look at it in total, it'll be a combination of the two. The students that are transferring into the pilot program, and then dollars from every other student that is not part of the program. That is correct.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm entirely comfortable with that, but I need to understand that better.
And the reason it came from, I mean, the rationale behind all that and why we moved that ahead is, again, I brought this came forward to the group, and it goes back to what I just said a little while ago. You know, these are not local tax dollars, first of all. These are statewide dollars earned from the broader initiative of HB8. HB8 is helping us kick this program off. And as such, I think that number will be refined and focused on the groups that are participating and going through there and earning those dollars. Because there is a hybrid of that cohort of students who are participating and those who are not. Yeah, we thought to move it all forward to be able to kick us off. We had to start somewhere, but we only started with state dollars, and that was the best we can do to get us started.
And the associate degree, certificate programs, and GAI transfers, are those only from this cohort, or are those other dollars mixed in as well?
So those are the dollars that are going to be earned for this cohort.
Okay.
That's the lion's share, I would say.
I would just ask, maybe you use that same methodology then on dual credit transfers, that you only apply the dual credit transfers for the cohort we're talking about. Because otherwise you're taking money that's earned for other students into this cohort as opposed to leaving it where it, again, if this is going to be a true cohort-based model, then we need to understand the revenue specifically for this cohort only.
And then on the back end of that, the other end of that conversation, it's going to be that the outputs from this cohort will go back in ultimately to support another cohort, but there'll be sufficient in our theoretical approach right now, and that's why we're testing this, to support students even beyond this cohort. So it's gonna.
No, I understand the revolving nature of it,
But for the startup,
but to start it up, you have to understand cohort by cohort, and then eventually the wheel starts turning and it starts making sense for a broader but.
Yeah.
And I wanted to point
understand.
out one thing is that I think that it's very difficult to show in this because you don't really know the exact students that are coming in. However, for every dual credit student, when they complete 15 credit hours, we receive $3,500 per student. And so that is an incremental piece. We're letting students, dual credit students can be coming in with different hours. However, we're taking regular students with 12 hours or less. And many of your dual credit students on average have about 12 hours. So when we get them that first year, we'll get the 15 credit hours and we'll get that $3,500. However, because it's the unknown cohort, it's a projection, the numbers are not specifically delineated here.
Furthermore, many of those students are going to come in with more than 12 hours.
That is
I think
correct.
we're all pinging on the same thing. We're reading each other's minds. And so many of them are going to come in and finish way before the 3 years time play. And so they're going to be generating revenue right away and leaving a lot of opportunity for other students to backfill. So, it's really going to take this first year of analysis, but these are wonderful questions. We're taking notes, and we will rectify that, Madam Chair. And I do appreciate where you're coming from on this.
And if I can add, we have $1.7 million in that total at the end of the program surplus. Even if we say the 930,000 does not relate to this cohort, we're at 800,000 surplus. It's that front-end cash flow that's needed to kickstart the program, but essentially it pays back. The other point I wanted to make, earlier I mentioned that we had a conservative estimate of completers for associate's degree. I think the number was 70%.
72%.
But when you compress the period of time, I think it's going to be a bigger number. And this number is definitely going to grow. But again, this is just an estimate.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Regent Loeb?
Yeah, so that 930,000 is basically 265 transfers at 3,500 apiece.
Yes, sir.
It is included in that number, yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, did we include the performance pay for a bunch of them being academically disadvantaged? Like
Sure.
where they qualify for Pell? Because, I mean, a big chunk of them do.
The analysis does include, or takes into consideration, those three, what I call, in my opinion, is the bonus round, right?
Right, okay.
The weighted measures.
Because, I
Weighted
mean,
measures, yes.
I'll put it to you this way. I don't think we're only, I mean, if that's the case, then we're talking like 180 or 200, and I don't believe that out of the several thousand dual credit in district students we have, that only that small a percentage of them are going to sign up for the program.
I think we're going to do better.
I mean, so I'm not terribly worried about that. And I also think that because we're going to have those dual credit transfers in, those are going to be the first completers. And, like kind of how on the BAS program, I mean, we started in the fall and we're going to have our first graduate in the summer. So there's going to be some associates and there's going to be some transfers out before year 3.
Yes.
Did you put that funding in year 3 because that's when we actually get paid by the state?
Yes,
Okay.
the financial piece does have the 1-year lag. It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're using last year's dual credit number because we're not going to get this class's dual credit until the year after.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got that.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why you did that. I mean, I think it's probably better to show it in year 2 and then just point out that, we're using the foundation money up front, and yeah, we're giving up some revenue on the front end, but it'll trickle in. I mean, it's a little confusing on just the cohort level, but I mean, I see what you're trying to do, but I understand the limitation in trying to model that sort of thing, not knowing what the class is going to look like.
I'd like to add that there's still pieces and parts to HB 8 that are still being resolved at this legislative session that have to do with this. In fact, I was on a sounding board yesterday with Commissioner of Higher Ed. I remain on that small team of CEOs that are watching that. Settling up and all of these things, there's still wiggle room, variables, and things that we're going to have to deal with in the spring and summer of 26. So things are changing at this session. We're going to bring those back. We think things are mostly to our advantage, but stay tuned. There's going to be refinement yet to come.
As a final point to this data analysis, it's really driven by our performance back in 23-24. I can tell you Mark has done an incredible job working with Leonard and team to continue to grow that program, the dual credit program, which, Mr. Loeb, you nailed it. You know, if we can get more of our students taking dual credit classes, then we can already hear the register ringing in years 1 and 2 because they've already taken a lot more classes in dual credit. So if that is one of the many performance key drivers, this number is going to shift over more.
The number you're talking about, Mr. Garcia, is a 27% number, and that's the percentage of seniors who matriculate to Del Mar College from dual credit, right? Vice President Benavides Dominguez? Okay, so that number right there is what we're seeking to tweak. And then that 27%, we're still just, I say just, but we're talking about slightly over 250, 300 students. It's not that large a number right now. Despite all those students who participate. We do believe this will change things, as you're insinuating and implying, and so as such, we do believe we're working off that number. That's why these numbers are not too far of a stretch. We'll see.
Is there a game plan in case? I mean, I know in a lot of ways you have to base this off of what happened in ACC and Alamo. They have a much more competitive environment, and their program wasn't exactly as benefit-rich as this is. So do we have a game plan if Jeff breaks the plan?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We're going to control. We really believe that, like Dr. Escamilla was talking about, the lifestyle change in our student population is going to be a challenge. When you're at over 80% part-time, to get those students to commit to full-time and then actually to stay the course, we believe that is going to be a big control mechanism. And so we're going to be monitoring along the way. That timeline is very significant in that we could open or close it, honestly, as needed. But we're going to be monitoring it along the way.
We do have safety and backup
valves.
mechanisms in case.
I'm not saying close it. I'm saying, do we have a plan for John to go out and hire a lot more people?
Oh. Yes, we do.
Yes.
I'll say yes, we do.
I mean, because I'm just remembering what happened on the BAS program, and maybe it's wishful thinking, but that's.
We'll
I guess,
take your wishful thinking.
Sometimes my job is to be overly pessimistic, and sometimes it's to think wishfully. So, I'm wishful today. So
We'll take the optimism.
So, Mr. Loeb, with that said, in our 2025 financial budget plan, we have about $1.9 in contingency.
Million.
And when I first got here and I talked to Mark and I said, what is this? He's like, well, that's what we need just in case to adjust our ebb and flow of enrollment when it comes to funding faculty. That's why we have the $1.9 million there. So we can access that come March, April, when we start to get our numbers and we start to see, hey, there's a big need of part-time students in this area, and let's go ahead and tap into those dollars. That's what it's there for.
To support it. Well said, Mr. Garcia. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question about the early learnings from Alamo and from ACC. I know that y'all spend a lot of time talking with them and that it is a different environment, but what are they seeing in their first years and that is applicable to us? What do you think was particularly applicable?
Mr. Garcia, you did the analysis.
So, we did ask that question to Alamo, and their immediate response is that their graduation rates are growing. They couldn't quantify it for me. I was persistent in trying to get that information, but that's what they're seeing today as the trend. They actually introduced that in I think within the last 12 months, so they're still assessing the outcomes of their plan. But so far, graduation seems to have scaled up for them, and so that's what we're hoping for, is to scale up those graduation rates earlier, not having to wait 5 years and then 6 years to get our payment. We're now accelerating that to 2 to 3, and with this dual credit initiative that Ms. Benavides and Dr. Leonard is driving, we can see that shift to 1-2 years possibly.
Austin Community, you talked about Alamo, that was last dollar in, but I think you meant Austin Community College as the ones that was a primary focus. They were the ones that we most emulated or closest, more closely replicated of the two. They also saw a 17% increase in that freshman class right off the bat. That was this past fall. I talked to Dr. Lowry Hart, my dear friend and colleague out there, and he could not be more pleased with the overall outcomes. And he has opened his doors and said, "Please call me, come by, whatever, for us to share the data with you, because we want to see what you're doing as well." Ours is different. But the overall feedback, and I've not spoken to Dr. Flores over at Alamo about this yet. I will. But so far, the one we're most closely replicating has been an overwhelming success. Trials and errors, learning lessons, policy tweaks for them to come as well.
Yeah. One last item I learned from both organizations is that the college has different levers to push and pull, right, to manage the size of the program. These is what we've come up with today, but this can easily change as new information is received. I'm sorry. As more information is received, we will adjust it so that we can make this program successful, and then we can push and pull certain levers to make it work. The goal is to make this as successful as possible as we kick this off.
Regent Avery.
Thank you. Is the idea to let this first cohort complete all the way before we consider expanding it? Or will we assess like every year?
The idea is to assess this year, come back to you in the spring semester once we have that data on the fall term, and we'll determine at that point in time. We have the numbers looking at multiple cohorts. Ideally, that would be great if we're in a position to do that.
And what we stated at the previous, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, your light's on, I don't mean to overstep you. What we've talked about in previous meetings here was that it was a strong likelihood that 2 cohorts would be really the size of the population that we would need to really make assessments. But it is a year-to-year check along the way, and permission absolutely by this board. Those are our initial thoughts at this point, with year 3 being the one that's probably got the most questioning. But that's when we'll have the most data and information to realize the efficacy of this program.
So as we wrap up the discussion, I did want to offer, Dr. Escamilla recognized Ms. Alvarez in the audience, but did want to offer her the opportunity to make any comments on behalf of the foundation as our source of some of these funds. Just want to offer you an opportunity, Sandra.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Dr. Escamilla, and board members, region members, thank you. First of all, we're so excited to be able to finally use these funds that we've had in our pocket for a very long time. This is a great opportunity for our students and for our community. And I appreciate all the questions and all the answers that I'm getting. I know that the board is looking forward to partnering with the college. And if there's anything else that we can do for you, we'd be open to do that for us as well.
Thank you. Thank you to you and your board members for your ongoing commitment. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so the staff is asking us to consider item 2 on the workshop agenda is actually the action item. So staff is asking us to approve the tuition and fee waiver pilot program for the first cohort. and to authorize administration to proceed and administer the program as described today. Are there any questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Second by Dr. Adami. Did I hear that correctly? Are there any other questions about the motion? Is there any public comment on this item? Opportunity for the public to comment? Then all those in favor of the motion to approve the offering of this tuition fee and waiver pilot program and to authorize our administration to proceed, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for your hard work on this. I think it's going to be an exciting day, and we know we can schedule, Ms. Pettis, some follow-ups on our pending item list so that we understand how the cohort is responding. And I guess the next charge is for Mr. Olson to go get to work, right?
We're just going live right now.
They are ready to kick it off as you voted.
The team is already working on branding this thing to kick off. They have things already in the can, so to speak, and ready to unveil. I just got to say, Regents and to the team together, this college is doing some amazing things. This is one of them.
Yep.
Thank you all very much. We greatly appreciate your attention today and support. Thank you.
Thank you.
So since we do have a little bit of time before the end of our scheduled workshop session, we are going to take advantage of that time, and the board is going to go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 for consultation with legal counsel on litigation and other items. The time is 11:11 a.m. We'll take a short break, and we'll meet in our closed session room. Good afternoon, everyone. We are technically going to close the workshop session of the Board of Regents that we held earlier this morning. We came out of closed session at 11:53 a.m. with no action items, so that workshop session is now adjourned.